Unless you have single pane glass and sit by the window all day, you are 100% certain to have an infrared and biophoton deficiency. This is simply a massive, gigantic health problem. We have completely banished infrared from our lives. You are honestly just being taken for a ride. Your health really needs that entire infrared light spectrum. You simply must have something to compensate for the lack of infrared and biophotons. It is just essential, because if you do not do that, your body will not be able to move forward. Then you just stay stuck in that total regulation disorder and your body can never heal. So it is very important that you understand there is a real problem. Hello, my name is Kai from Photon for Health, and today I am going to make it very clear to you what the influence of your windows and light is on your health. Let me get straight to the point. The windows and lamps in your home, in your office, at your work are ruining your health. Because there has been a great deal of change in what windows and lamps actually do. And in order to understand that, you must first understand what light really is. I have an instrument here that allows us to precisely measure what light is, what various colors are contained within it. Just picture, maybe you have encountered it, a prism capable of splitting light. The light we observe appears to possess only a warm white hue, but in reality it encompasses many different colors. Red, green, blue, yellow, orange, purple, and naturally also infrared. There is a great deal of infrared light in sunlight, but sadly our human eyes cannot see it very well. There are animals that have a somewhat broader color spectrum that they can see. They can see some infrared, and maybe you know it from security cameras that can still see in the dark. And how do they do that? They have an infrared light that beams. The camera sensor can see the infrared light, but people cannot. So it seems like there is no light, but of course it is there. You may have noticed by now that I have spoken about infrared light and health on occasion, because your overall health is very much dependent on having enough infrared light in your life. Why is that the case? Our cells actually require infrared light to function correctly. This is because we absorb biophotons from the infrared spectrum of the sun. These biophotons are the tiny light signals that all the cells in your body use to communicate with each other and to produce energy. That is what a significant part of our therapy is based on, increasing biophotons. We do that using special biophoton lasers, because what is the point? Laser light is completely different from normal light. Imagine a laser pointer that has a small dot of light and can shine very far. Of course, you cannot achieve that with a standard LED light, because laser light behaves in a completely different way. Those photons are all moving in one single direction. That is what they call coherent monochromatic light. It is in coherence with itself. It moves in one direction and it is monochromatic. It is just one single wavelength. If you take a light bulb, for instance, that is incoherent and chaotic light. The light is made up of many different mixed colors. All sorts of colors are mixed together into one single color, and it bounces in every direction. It is certainly useful if you want to light up a room, because then you only need a single point of light to illuminate the entire space. If you were to hang a small laser from the ceiling, you would have one tiny dot while the rest of the room remains dark. But for your health, that coherent light, that type of light is very important, because all your cells communicate with each other using small light signals. They call those biophotons. And these originate primarily from the infrared light spectrum. And then we have the sun. And the sun possesses a very broad light spectrum, as we will show shortly with this little device. Only a very small fraction of that infrared light spectrum coming from the sunlight is actually coherent light. Those are the specific photons that we really need. So it is very important to get enough infrared light, because you can absorb so little of it anyway. But now you get the problem, because what do our windows do? Look, I have some different windows here. The simplest way is just a single pane of glass like we once had in our homes. Then we go to double glazing. This type was installed in my own residence and represents what was commonly fitted in homes around 30 years ago. Then we have triple glazing, that is 3 layers of glass. It also has a slightly better coating to insulate the heat. And then we have what is currently being installed in all houses and apartments with 4 layers of glass. Look here, 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of glass. And now it is actually very important to understand. the sunlight that nature provides us with. Which specific part of that light do these glass panes and windows actually allow into your home? Yes, folks, that is the fun of filming outside. Planes flying over, wind blowing. We still have glass to measure, so no worries. Fortunately, it is not a major issue for the measurement, because we only need to measure a small section using this sensor. We will measure the sunlight first and then the various windows, because we want to calculate exactly how much healthy light is contained in the light shining through the windows. Then we need to apply a small formula, in which we start with the total light intensity. So we can ask ourselves exactly how much light is that? And then we go on to look at what percentage of that light is the infrared light that we actually need. Well, that sits right around the 785 nanometer spectrum. So at that precise wavelength, we are best able to absorb the biophotons. And then we arrive at a specific number that indicates exactly how powerful the light is and how much healthy light is left over. This allows us to make a direct comparison between the sunlight and window panes 1, 2, 3, and 4, so we can accurately assess what we retain. Let's begin by measuring the direct sunlight without any window obstructing it, meaning full sunlight. You can observe a very beautiful color spectrum right there. All colors are present, both red and infrared are present. That light pink line is the part where you can pick up the biophoton. Everything after that is infrared and invisible to the human eye. So we now know the base value for our 100% light power and 100% infrared power. We will now measure that through the single glass. As you see, we keep 85% light and 82% infrared. Sunlight through single glass still lets you absorb many natural biophotons. Now let's take a look at the double glazing we currently have in our older homes. If you look now, you'll see that double glazing only lets in 64% of visible light and just 55% of infrared light. So, with the simple double glazing that we installed in our homes 30 or 40 years ago, you are left with only 55% of the infrared light from which you can absorb biophotons. However, for the past 15 years or so, we have returned to using 3 layers of glass with additional coatings to reflect infrared light, and that is immediately visible in the measurements. We are left with 52% visible light, compared to the 64% we had with double glazing, but we only retain 40% infrared light from the biophoton spectrum, and this will get a factor worse with the 4-layer glass, as you will see soon. So we now have 52% light intensity and 40% infrared, and with modern glass, which is installed in all homes and offices today, we only have 28% visible light and 13% infrared. We therefore simply have a loss of 87% infrared light within the biophoton spectrum with the light that modern glazing lets through. This is a massive problem for your health because you think you are getting a lot of light, but in reality you are getting very little infrared light and you do not notice it because you cannot see it. But almost 90% of the infrared light is simply gone, and that's when you are sitting directly behind the glass. In the middle of the living room or office, the light intensity is another 85% less than directly behind the window. To make it perfectly clear, you lose light intensity with every single step of glass, but you are losing proportionally much more infrared compared to the previous glass. So double glazing blocks some light, HR++ glass blocks even more, and modern glass blocks even more than that. But the small amount of light that still gets through contains proportionally less infrared light than the previous one, and the ratio of infrared light decreases extra fast. So regular light decreases like this, but infrared light decreases very sharply. It really plummets. So, the modern windows that we are currently using in our homes and our offices are truly fantastic for insulation, which means you can heat very cheaply, but the light you get inside is completely depleted. So that contains almost no infrared light anymore, and because of that, we cannot absorb the biophotons that we need to stay healthy. And this is a massive problem, because let us be honest, people are mostly indoors, so you are dealing with artificial light. Now, artificial light has all become LED. With LED, we have the exact same problem. I will walk inside in a moment, and I will show you. We are currently inside my living room. I have closed the shutters so that we can measure exactly what the quality of the lighting is. Look, I have a very nice LED strip that goes all the way around. That is, of course, very nice, right? Those beautiful LED spots built into the ceiling. But what kind of light do they actually emit? Is it healthy light? So that is the question. Well, I am just climbing onto the couch. Well, as you can clearly see, it is actually showing a primary peak in blue and red and a little bit of yellow, but the entire infrared spectrum is not present at all. That is naturally a significant problem for your health because you also want that healthy infrared light, just as I have already explained to you. So if I were to sit here in the evening and I would only turn on the television and this lighting, then I would become just as tired and sick as the rest of the population. Yes, it all seems very cozy, but it is actually sickening because that LED light does not emit any infrared light at all, which means your cells get absolutely nothing from it. And that is precisely the reason why the biophoton therapy lamps that we sell are so incredibly valuable for your personal health, because they contain a significant amount of infrared and red light. And that very strong infrared light that we shine on the body compensates for all the infrared light that you are lacking from the sun. We accomplish this in two distinct ways. We use infrared LEDs which activate the body's energy production. These are beneficial for the nervous system, the skin, collagen, and the muscular system. That is incredibly valuable, and we also add infrared coherent biophoton lasers. As I explained at the beginning, those infrared lasers increase your biophotons. Your biophotons are then utilized by all your cells, your organs, and your immune system. If you lack biophotons, you get a total regulatory disorder, your whole body stalls, and you become chronically ill. It doesn't matter which chronic disease you have. If biophotons play a role, and we increase them with our biophoton therapy, the body will be able to heal itself again. So please remember that biophotons are incredibly important. Keep in mind that sunlight contains a lot of infrared light, but only a tiny percentage of this infrared light is coherent and can be absorbed as biophotons. You need biophotons for health. Next, we install windows in our offices and our homes that completely filter out a large portion of the infrared light spectrum, which makes you sit inside thinking you have a healthy home with lots of light. But no, you are simply being fooled. You are being fooled as you only see visible light and miss what is hidden. Visible light is fine for your eyes to see where you walk, but your health needs the full infrared spectrum. Unless you have single pane glass and sit by the window all day, you surely have an infrared and biophoton deficiency. We will fix that with our biophoton therapy lamps. Using 785 nanometer infrared lasers, you can resolve that deficiency, so you will become much healthier and more energetic. And that is, of course, ultimately what we do. Much more energy, far fewer chronic complaints. And that is simply what we exist for. Our purpose is to assist you in achieving better health through equipment that can genuinely enrich your personal life. However, it is imperative that you first grasp the nature of the problem. And we simply have an enormous, gigantic problem. We have completely banished infrared from our lives because we barely have any contact with sunlight anymore. And when we do go outside, we wear clothes. Well, that is not very strange, because for the majority of the year, the temperature is simply too low to be outside without covering up. And we won't even mention the potential opinions of the neighbors regarding that. Therefore, you simply need a means to compensate for the deficiency in infrared light and biophotons. This necessity is undeniable. If you simply want to maintain your health, or if you are currently ill and wish to recover, or perhaps you are somewhat healthy but want to feel much more vital, then you must increase the biophotons in your body and start increasing the infrared in your life. Because failure to do so will prevent your body from advancing. You will remain trapped in that complete regulatory imbalance, making healing impossible. It is therefore crucial that you recognize that a genuine problem exists. This issue does not stem from nature being disordered. Nature, the sun, is functioning perfectly well. It gives us the light we need. And what you need is to simply sit in the sun for several hours a day with your body exposed, so you can absorb the infrared power and the biophotons. A wild animal is outside all day too, all day. It sits in the sun all day and does not suffer from chronic diseases. But we suddenly got very smart. Then we built houses, sat inside all day. Then we invented the computer and did office work constantly. And then we thought, well, the energy bill is getting a bit high, so we decided to use windows that let light in, but will just filter out all that infrared light that we can't see anyway. Because don't we really need that light? Yes, that is what the engineers thought. And that is what the home builders thought too. But then 50 to 60% of the population became chronically ill. Humans originally come from warm regions where we were outside a lot, wearing very few clothes. As you can see in the image on the left. In the right image, you see how we live now. Indoors, a small window that only lets through 28% light intensity. and only 13% infrared light, from which we absorb the biophoton. But we are not sitting right behind the window. We are sitting a few meters away. And there, the light intensity is 85% lower than right by the window. That leaves us with only 1.9% of the infrared light, from which you can extract the biophotons. But then we make it even worse because we are also wearing clothes, covering 89% of our body. Indoors, we are capable of absorbing a mere 0.2% of the biophotons required for maintaining good health. And everyone is wondering, why are we all so sick? Everyone is blaming everything. The food is not very healthy, there is a lot of radiation, and that all plays a role. But the fundamental basis is light, because light is the fundamental basis of every single cell in your body. Every single cell within your body utilizes light to communicate. Therefore, thanks to this small device, I hope I have been able to provide you with some valuable insights. And if you truly want to reach the next level, you should definitely take a look at our biophoton therapy lamps. We have them from small to large to bigger to even bigger to super large. We offer them in a wide variety of shapes and sizes to help address your infrared and biophoton deficiencies so that you can start feeling much healthier again. Thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully you learned something. If you found it interesting, please send it to someone else. Do you know someone who is sick? Show this to them. Let them comprehend the issue concerning light in our lives and the methods available to resolve it. By helping yourself and helping others, we collectively support one another. My name is Kai from Photon for Health. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.